The World Ends With You released for the Nintendo DS back in 2007, an ARPG with a fairly unique urban setting and a battle system that made use of both of the system's screens. It earned itself a cult following over the years, with many fans clamouring for a sequel, and now some 14 years later, that sequel has finally arrived and hit the Switch this week. Is the Reaper's game worth playing, or is it all looking pretty grim? Well, I'm Glen Bolger, thank you to Square Enix for the review code, and now let's find out. As with the original, this new entry takes place in a modern day version of the Shibuya district in Tokyo. You take control of Rindo, who along with his friend Fret find themselves caught up in the Reaper's game. They have 7 days to complete a series of tasks and accumulate enough points to top the leaderboards. Failure to do so could lead to severe consequences. The story is heavily fleshed out throughout, with a number of cutscenes interspersed into the gameplay. Characters are likeable and there is a good sense of humour used. A couple of familiar faces show up from the first game, and whilst it has been a few years since I played that original, and it may well be that some references make more sense if you have played it, I don't feel you need to have played it to fully enjoy or understand this new entry. In terms of the general structure of the gameplay, you will need to make your way across each of the districts. These areas are set out as 3D environments, but with fixed camera perspectives, which will change as you move across the screen. You will need to fulfill particular objectives that are displayed at the top of the screen, and these are presented as the challenges given to you by the Reapers, with a new one given to you each day via the app on your phone. You have a map which will highlight where you need to go, and the objectives themselves are fairly straightforward, mainly acting as story beats to get you where you need to be. They do become a little more obscure as you go on, needing you to use a few hints given to you in order to find clues, a bit like a scavenger hunt, and these were a nice addition to the gameplay, even if they were still pretty standard. You do have a number of skills and abilities that you will need in order to progress at times, such as being able to read the thoughts of the general public, or further powers that you will gain a bit later into the game, such as reminding bystanders of certain information, being able to imprint thoughts upon them, or even being able to rewind time. Again, most of the time you will be told when to use these powers, it's all about moving you forward. Another of these abilities is a big part in the combat, and this is scanning the surrounding area. This will show you the location of any nearby enemies, which are called the Noise. Walking into them will initiate a battle, transporting you to the battle screen, which, much like the main areas, is set out on a 3D plane, again, albeit with fixed camera angles. You have a certain number of members in your team, with this number growing slightly as you play, and each team member must have a pin assigned to them, as these pins act as your attacks. Pins can be found across the game world, earned by being successful in battle, or even bought in the shops around the districts. Each of these pins grants the wearer an attack, as I mentioned just now, with these being set into categories, such as ones that require the button to be tapped rapidly, ones that need the button to be held down, or ones that need to be charged. They each have a damage value which they will inflict onto the enemy, and particular enemies will be weak to certain attacks. Entering a battle will see a number of enemies being presented to you, and whilst you begin the battle by controlling the main protagonist, you can switch to any other member of your party by pressing the attack button assigned to them, which will change based on the pin they are wearing, but is always displayed above their head. This allows you to hit enemies with multiple characters one after the other, although using an attack too much in one go will see it temporarily depleted and a cooldown period needed before that attack and therefore that character can be used again. Clever use of each character's moves, called psychs, allows you the opportunity to initiate what's called a beat drop combo, effectively hitting an enemy with another character's psych move at the right time, and doing so earns you groove points. When this number hits 100, you can unleash a mashup move, which is a more powerful combo. As with the original game from back in 2007, combat does take some getting used to. Switching between characters can be a little disorienting at first. The evasive dash move, performed by pressing B, only relates to the character you are controlling, but you switch so quickly at times you can lose track of who you are, and some of the moves, particularly the charge moves, took a while to get used to in terms of timings, especially when you are trying to pull off a beat drop combo. However, when it does start to click, you realise just how intuitive it can be. What initially seems like button mashing reveals its true nuance the first time you have to fight a boss, and suddenly realise that patience and coordination are key to success. Coupled with the huge number of pins available, over 300 in total, each with a unique attack, gives a lot of scope for combat to be shaped to suit your style. That being said, personally I don't think it quite matches the battle system of the original, but obviously that was built to cater to the strengths of the DS, namely the dual screens, and this new system did grow on me over time, whilst never being able to fully break free of an overriding clunky feel. Part of this is down to the fixed camera angle, which, along with the switching of characters and the manic nature of proceedings, did lead to times where I couldn't see what was happening properly, but slowing things down and taking my time did help alleviate this to an extent. You can also chain together battles by walking into a number of enemies at once and then fighting them one after the other. This increases the drop rate of pins and will sometimes be necessary in order to open up new areas of the map. Victory in battle will see your character earn XP, which will lead to your whole party levelling up at times and receiving a HP boost, but there is a lot more to it than this. Firstly, the pins that you attach to your characters also level up over time, and some even evolve to become more powerful. You can buy clothes in the stores dotted around each district, and these can be then attributed to your characters to give them particular stat boosts, with full sets earning an extra bonus. As with the clothes shops, food shops are also available to you, and buying particular foods is how you permanently increase your character's base stats, meaning that you can shape your character in specific ways, although there is a fullness meter which will decrease over time to stop you from turning your characters into absolute tanks too quickly. Money to indulge in such endeavours can be earned throughout certain missions or by selling any duplicate pins you don't want. Some of the extra missions take place once you unlock the friendship network.
Best friends forever and ever. Oh, friend!
Once this unlocks, you can earn friendship points, which can be used to buy more powerful moves. On the more negative side, personally, I didn't always feel the fixed camera perspective chosen was as useful as a free moving camera, although this is more of a minor niggle than a major gripe, to be fair. Whilst I enjoyed the story and found the characters likeable as mentioned, the cutscenes were perhaps a little too intrusive at times, breaking the flow of the game up a bit more than I would have liked. Gameplay is fun and built around an intriguing story full of colourful characters, and it scores 16 out of 20. Controls do the job, with some camera related issues in combat being a bit disappointing, and on the whole they score 15 out of 20. In terms of the visuals, Neo The World Ends With You goes for a very stylised aesthetic. Character designs have a strong anime feel to them, and the world itself has been modelled on the region of Shibuya, including major landmarks, most of which have their real names this time instead of the close approximations used in the original. I liked how buildings contorted and stretched in the distance as you navigated the surroundings, giving a bizarre otherworldly feel to something that otherwise looked quite normal. I also want to mention the enemies, as the bright and bold colours used provided a strong juxtaposition to that more normal urban setting, and the strong black outlines also really allowed them to stand out, looking quite reminiscent of the character designs in a personal favourite game of mine, Okami. Performance wise, there are occasional frame rate dips, nothing major but perhaps a little more frequent than they should be. This issue seems to affect handheld mode more, but again it's a fairly minor issue, just one that needs addressing. Talking of handheld, everything else is fine, the game pops quite nicely on the smaller screen, and the text is of a fair size. I also need to mention that due to the map being made up of a number of smaller areas, you will experience frequent load times as you move from one area to another. Whilst they aren't overly long, coupled with the loading screens before a battle as well, and the frequency of the cutscenes, it did exacerbate my main issue with the game, which is that it can begin to feel quite fragmented. To be fair, this may just be a personal gripe and not affect others quite so much. Moving on to the audio then, and composer of the original game, Takaharu Ishimoto, has returned to this sequel. There is a mix of music used from a number of different genres, including some fully vocalised tracks. If I were to sum up the soundtrack in one word, it would probably be energising. It keeps the action ticking along and never fails to create a vibrant and upbeat feeling as you play. Voice acting is also used heavily throughout the game, and this adds a good level of charm to proceedings. Whilst English voices are used by default, you can change to Japanese voices should you wish via the menus. Visuals are bright and uplifting, and everything has a strong sense of style. A few technical issues do mar this a touch, but they score 17 out of 20. Whilst the music wasn't to my personal taste, having officially entered the grumpy old man stage of my life, I could still fully appreciate its energy, vibrancy and variety, and audio scores 18 out of 20. Neo The World Ends With You costs £49.99 and regional equivalents are on your screen now. For this price you are getting anywhere between 40 to 50 hours worth of gameplay, with scope to go back and look for any of the collectibles such as pins that eluded you the first time round. I would doubt that many fans of the original will be disappointed with the amount of content you get for that price being asked, and I've seen the physical version going for about £10 cheaper, which is an even more palatable price. Finally, there is a demo available which carries your progress over into the main game if you want to try before you buy, and value scores 16 out of 20. To conclude, Neo The World Ends With You is a sequel that I'm fairly confident will make those who have been waiting for the last 14 years very happy. It's also a game that is interesting and unique enough to entertain those that don't necessarily have a connection with the series as of yet. There are a few minor issues, the combat system could have perhaps done with a bit more refinement, and there were a few too many breaks in gameplay for my liking, but on the whole, there are far worse ways to experience the end of the world.
Derivative.
Neo The World Ends With You gets a SwitchUp score of 82%. Thank you everybody for watching this review, I hope you enjoyed it. Please do remember to leave a like if you did. A quick thank you to our Patreons as always for your continued support, and to each and every one of you for watching our videos. Take care, stay safe of course, and until next time, happy gaming.
Just as I calculated. Look at that! A gold star! Quay?
Indeed.